Hey everybody, this is Matt Manick, and this is my little presentation on the Saturniinae family. Little outline for you here, so I'm going to concentrate on the subfamily Saturniinae, including information on the larger family Saturniidae. We're going to look at a few specific species examples for some ranges I'll show you in a bit, and then we'll cover some historical and ecological biogeography of this family. Alrighty, taxonomy time. So we got class Insecta, order Lepidoptera, family Saturniidae, and subfamily Saturnae. So what are these things? Basically, they're large moths of North America. So these include giant silk moths, emperor moths, and royal moths. Some distinguishing characteristics of these, you'll have eye spots on the wings, as you see in that picture up there. They got pretty cool antennae, and they often lack mouth parts. Alright, next up we got some distribution and abundance. So these guys, as you can kind of see in this picture over to the right here, they take up most of North America. Uh, some stick to the east coast, others will go along the west coast, depending on the species. I'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. Uh, Basically, they all live in Wallace's near Arctic zoogeographic region that we learned about earlier in the course. They prefer wooded areas within this range, and most species are considered common from what I found, although they can be hard to find because that's due to the short adult lifespan they have. Some of these moths will only live in their adult stage for 5 to 12 days, I found was an average. So, yeah. Alright, for my first example here is I got the range of the Luna moth, or the American moon moth, it's also known as. The ACCDC has this moth considered secure on PEI, from what I found from their website there. This is a picture of the little guys here, these two. They're considered one of the more pretty moths that we have. And the range over here is probably one of the biggest ranges for one of these species. You can see the orange dots show the current record of kind of where they are, and then the purple is historic record of where they used to be. So a lot of overlap there. For my second example here, we have the Columbia silk moth. And I should probably tell you what the ACCDC is first of all, which it's the Atlantic Canada Conservation Data Center, which basically just tells you if a species is secure or endangered or threatened, you know. So this guy is also considered secure in PEI. I looked up there. Map over here. This is one of those species that kind of is on the western side of North America, on that west coast, and then also has the little population over to the right there, following mostly the Great Lakes and into the Atlantic Canada region there, where we are. Alright, so for my third example, we have the Sienna silk moth. This guy, you can see here over to the right again, we have their range just clinging to that west coast there of North America, which is the opposite of what we saw with the Luna moth, the first example, which was all on the right side. So we'll kind of get into a bit of why that is here in a bit. Alright, getting into some historical biogeography here. These giant silk moths, originally being native to Asia, were distributed around the globe for use by humans. That was for silk collection from their cocoons or chrysalises, as you might know it from monarchs if you studied those at all. It's believed that the Saturniids first evolved from the American tropics down there in the forested regions. These guys co-evolved with different flowering plants that they were around, so the plant changes, the animal adapts to that change. You guys all know that. something I found was that they went from what was considered old world to new world Saturniidae. So basically, what that is there's reproductive advancements in the new world ones now. Um, One of the more important points here, I guess, would be that the glacial advance and retreating events during the Pleistocene had effects on these guys. So the isolation from those glaciers, kind of moving in and then retreating and moving in again, created new species thanks to what we call allopatric speciation. And then there's just an example there on the right side of one of the more vibrant caterpillars in this family. I thought it looked kind of pretty. Alright, so a bit more on that. So from what I've found, the Saturniinae have not moved or dispersed too far from where they originally came from / were introduced to. Their ranges seem to just have expanded and increased in density for most species. Looking over more of those maps that I showed you there, those three examples, I looked over many of those, and they all seem to point to that. And then over here on the right side, I just have a little image from one of the papers I was looking at. That's just kind of Saturnid subfamily relationships. You can look at that in depth if you want to pause the video here. Alright, now for a bit on the ecological biogeography here. These guys, as I've been saying before, they prefer habitat sort of in a tropical wooded area. So, well, that is, they enjoy the climate near large bodies of water, I found. So, Atlantic, Pacific Ocean, and the Great Lakes, as we kind of saw on those maps up there. So basically, the oceans kind of in a way regulate the climate of the land close to them in the way that, like, in the winter when it cools down on land, the ocean's still warm from the summer, so it kind of keeps it from getting too cool in a way, and then it's just the opposite of that in the summer for us. And then, so that might be why we see those populations sticking to the coasts and along the Great Lakes there. Alright, last slide here for you. One of the things I found was that future climate increase might actually be a good thing for these guys. Basically, one study found that rising climate helps the species through their adult phase, like helps with their growth, and then that leads to an increase in population size for many of these species. So that could be a pro for climate change in a way. And then just more tropical climates will favor these species if climate change continues on the path that it's on now. Right on. Well, I hope you've enjoyed learning about this subfamily Saturniidae. I sure enjoyed researching this topic. And as always, thanks for listening.